So while I keep letting people in, I'm going to pass the baton over to Kevin in 1 second. And for those of you who haven't met me, I'm Sasha. I'm head of community here at Hubble. And I'm really excited that you guys are here. We're kind of doing this series every single month, all about questions that you guys have around, building a startup and being a founder. And our mission at Hubble, if you don't know, is one conversation can change everything. And we hope that part of this conversation today really does change something for you. So pass the baton over to Kevin. Kevin's gonna say a few words and then we're gonna get started. We got no time to waste.
We'll keep it short and sweet today. Thank you, Sasha. Hi, I'm Kevin, one of the co-founders at Hubble. I think there's a lot of important things, right? As us as founders and things we have to go through. I always say, as a CEO, especially, we have three core jobs. We set the vision of the company, we hire amazing people, and the last thing is we don't run out of money, right? And if you start a company or you're thinking about starting a company, this idea of not running out of money, unless you're like a psychopath, this is going to be the hardest, most challenging, probably worst part of your job is this fundraising process. We have to do it. It's oxygen for our companies. We have Mollie and Kat here today to talk about some alternative ways outside of venture capital for us to fund our companies and stay alive. And I think mostly it's all about as we start our company, it's all about how can we have more tools in our tool belt? How can we have access to more options? Because the more options we have, the better off usually we'll be. So we host these events once a month. We try to pick topics that are relevant. My hope is that everybody comes here and can be authentic, right? I think a lot of times as founders, we feel like, oh, we have to have it all figured out. It has to be perfect. It's never perfect, ever. I don't care what founder you are, what stage you are, it's always messy. There's always issues. So having a place that we can just come and be real with each other, we can support one another is so important and so critical in this process. So grateful to have everybody here. I'll turn it back over to Sasha. She can introduce the experts today, and excited to have a fun learning session.
Let's do it. Please, as you guys are coming in, for those of you kind of joining, please, pop in your LinkedIn's, pop in, what you're doing, what you're building, where you're coming from. I always love asking the beverage that people are drinking. I'm having a protein shake, post gym session. It's always fun, kind of, knowing people's preferences. I'm going to pass the baton now over to Mollie and Kat to introduce themselves, and then we're going to get right into it. So, Mollie, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, I was gonna say only one beverage. I have like three beverages here. I'm like always Bevy maxing, so I feel like just one is really limiting.
Same.
Um,
We have a tea and a protein shake.
yep, yep. It's really nice to meet everybody. I'm excited to be here today. Mollie Jahner, CEO of Springe-Forge. We have been primarily focused the last 15 years of our company's lifespan on defense tech and dual use tech and helping them find going to market, but then also going to funding, primarily non-dilutive. So what does that look like with grant funding? What does it look like through government procurement channels and strategic partnerships? And then going to scale. So how do we sell back to the DoW and other state and federal agencies? So we've closed almost 800 million in large contracts over the last couple years as of late, and then over 300 million in roll-ups. So those are some figures.
Heck
Some
yeah. And then
super casual
Kat.
figures, by the way. Like,
I
how do
know.
you follow up that? Like, I'm just gonna roll those around. That don't be so casual there. Damn, that's
Okay.
awesome. Well, it's great to see a few familiar faces here and to those that are new. My name is Kat Weaver. I am a two-time accidental founder. I started my first company in college with no network or connections, lost everything to a fire, and then my claim to fame was winning 22 of 23 grants I applied for. Changed my life, saved the business, and I sold and exited that company after 6 years and founded what's now Power to Pitch. So my whole mission is helping founders get funded faster. I help on both the corporate grant side, so not on the federal side. So you've got the perfect mix of Mollie and myself here. The corporate grant side are on the smaller amounts between 1,000 and 150,000, but still powerful nonetheless. And then I support pre-seed through Series A founders in raising through angels and venture capital. So really excited to be here with all of you.
Amazing. Who here is in defense? Put a little me in the chat just so we can kind of see. And then who's here more on the healthcare,
Could be
on the
CPG tech,
CPG? Yeah.
healthcare, really anything outside of defense tech, because on the corporate grant side, the only stipulations is under 1 million in annual recurring revenue. And those are founders that can really go after corporate grants.
Awesome. Okay, let's get started right here with the big question of when should you look for alternative funding?
I mean, right away.
Yeah, let's do
I know
it.
Kat's gonna. I've seen Kat post about this on LinkedIn, so I know she feels the same way I do about it. But I mean, it should be day one of your strategy as a company. Like, how are we funding this? And VC, we have all of our VC friends and they're wonderful, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's always the best funding for your company, especially right out the gate. I think a lot of times when you're thinking about alternative funding, it needs to be a part of your product roadmap. So again, thinking about people who are building a thing, especially if you're going to go after grant funding, you need to make sure that that grant actually feeds your roadmap, because otherwise you're going to be building to someone else's specs. So you need to start planning for that alternative funding, I think, from day one.
Nice. What does that look like?
Well, Molly, if I could add to that too, it's like that's with any form of capital. Like you should be thinking about it before you need it and before you're ready, because you'll never be ready. And then by the time you actually want to go for it, you're too desperate and you don't have the right things in place. So like it's any form of capital that a founder should think about, from the actual federal funding side to the corporate grant side to an investor, whether even debt, a line of credit. I see founders go after those options far too late and consider them far too late because they think, oh, I'll wait, or oh, once I finish this task or this milestone, then I'll look at it. But the biggest lie we'll tell we tell ourselves as founders is, I'll do it one day and I'll remember that. So it's like we got to plan a lot more in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your experience, like when is VC the right move? And then when is it actually a hindrance to the company and the types of companies that should actually look for grant funding?
I mean, you want to go first, Kat? Go ahead.
Sure. Well, only 2% of companies raise venture, and out of that 2%, 75% of those companies fail. This is a public statistic. It's not meant for the majority of businesses. It's not the merit of being a good or bad business. But what I'll say is that, and I share a lot about this on LinkedIn, and I'll drop my LinkedIn in the chat again if for those who missed it, is I always say that venture capital should be plan F, not plan A. For companies under 1 million in annual recurring revenue, there is a ton of non-dilutive options, such as various forms of grants. I really say there's 4 different types of grants, from your government to pitch competitions to the corporate sector to in-kind services, which aren't necessarily cash, but like, for example, Stripe credits or AWS. Those are what I count as in-kind services. And then you have the next layer should be like debt. Then there's crowdfunding, then there's angel, then VC. VC is the most expensive. So I always say to founders is the right time is there's never a right time. Build the relationships, like kind of how I just mentioned before you need it, because the right time should be for growth and leverage, not out of desperation. So I always say, like, think about stacking different forms of capital and your capital options, like the grants or the debt and those kinds of things, because debt is cheaper than equity. There is a lot of other options to consider beforehand, but the right strategic investor can change a life. But there's higher growth expectations. You should be thinking about $1 billion outcome. You should be thinking about an exit and why you're bringing someone to the table, not just for dollar purposes. There should always be strategy behind it. So in my world, and what I see is like, build a relationship before you need it and hope to never need it. And when you think about high growth, you should have some leverage and bring on the right strategic people, and you should be vetting them like a marriage before ever taking someone's money.
So there's not much I can add to that. I will say one thing. It's kind of like a sandwich in how we approach it, which is we have the non-dilutive VC and then more non-dilutive. So something that really works for, again, the space that we're in is, hey, let's go after maybe an SPIR, maybe we go after a sitter, maybe we go after an IAC MAC. There's so many different contract vehicles that helps you build your product. And then the VCs are like, I want to follow that non-dilutive capital. There's always VCs that want to chase that. And that's where it goes from 2% to a much greater percentage after you win that non-dilutive contract. Now, like 50 to 60% of founders are getting funded after they've received a non-dilutive tranche. Once you get that good, smart money is what I like to call it, because those are people who are usually understand the opportunity, they're following government capital, they understand the space. Then you can go after more non-dilutive, because usually you've got the idea with the first grant funding. Now you've got the VC to back, especially if it's a CapEx heavy space like manufacturing or you're building a thing. Then you go back to the army, for example, and say, I built my thing, buy 2,700 of them. And then they'll buy them, and now you're in a really good spot. So it's like that. That's how I kind of think about it, like a sandwich. And that's why I would say how I would think about it in our space.
Okay, I have another example on top of that because I love that you said when you go after the grant, people raise 60%, there's 60% more
Yes.
you raise. So we had this one founder who's trying to raise for over a year. We helped them win small corporate grant. It was only like it was just under $30,000, but also who doesn't want a free $30,000? Like, took time, but fixed the messaging behind it. And then 2 months later, closed a $300,000 check from an investor. Another founder, same scenario, couldn't raise, no leverage, super early, won $10,000 grant. Small, but it was a lot of PR and credibility. Her old boss wrote her a check as her lead investor for $350,000. That wasn't even the whole
It's not
round.
even about the money. It's not even
Yeah.
about the money. It's about the fact that somebody's vetted you, right? And so now that VC feels like, oh, this is safe. Now I can write them a check because somebody else has written them money.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good idea. Yeah, such a good idea. Like when I was doing it, yeah, we want some grants from like Starling Bank. Like all these banks they all have different grants and they all have different options. And again, who doesn't love free money? Um, Molly, you mentioned a few different like the on the government side of things. Like when you were looking for these government grants, these kind of bigger sort of contracts, what are they looking for and how do you even begin that approach?
Oh gosh, that's a really big question. So I think where I would start as a founder is I would map the ecosystem, because the military, the government, what are we doing looking at a state level? There's so many different agencies that you could approach that you really need to just map it out. Who do I want I'll use an example of a drone company we're working with currently. So they're selling some really cool tech. I'm not going to say all of it on the call, but they are looking at AFRL, which is the Army, Air Force Research Laboratory, right? They're looking at AFWorks, they're looking at SpaceWorks. Those are specific agencies that are interested in that type of tech. So they're focused directly on those. Now, looking at those agencies, you can break down all the different ways that you can get funded through those different pockets of people and communities, right? So thinking about, okay, like if we take that example, SpaceWorks has a directive. They all have directives. How are they going to spend their budget this year? How are they going to spend it in the next 5 years? What are the things that they need to do, especially in line with the new administration? There's like multiple, they call them directives, that are usually out that are basically like, okay, we want this tech, this tech, this tech, and this tech. And then I would say, hey, pull a pitch together or a use case that says we fit this exact language, use their own language and feed it back to them, and then look for those grants within those agencies. So that's where I would start, because it's huge, and wrapping your arms around it is going to be a whole thing in and of itself. So get really niche again and find out who's going to support my product roadmap and what I'm building, and do I even want to partner with them in the future? Like, do I want to sell through this channel? Like, you have to ask yourself that question, because you may not want to. So hopefully, does that
Yeah.
answer? Does
Yeah.
that answer it a
Is
little bit?
is there like a good resource or a good website that you can kind of has a lot of these grants for the more government contract side?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess shameless plug, we have our software you could use, and I'm happy to offer it to Hubble folks, for free. Come join for a few days and test it out. But there's also a ton of other places, right? So every state has a bunch of different grant repositories that you could go to and look for. There's also sam.gov. You can go to grants.gov. I'm going to say this right now out of the gate. We tell every founder this. If you're not registered on sam.gov and you don't have a UEI number, you can't apply for grants anyway. So you need to go through that process and get that number to be able to apply for federal grants. So start now. It only takes like a week or so, but you should do it. And then you can go ahead and search and look for all the grants. NSF, so that's the National Science Foundation. They have a bunch of grants. There's SOCOM is Special Forces. I mean, like I said, do some research. There's so many different branches of military and then also the government. So you can find grants in each of those pockets.
Nice. And then Kat, for you, when looking, like how do you even when you have a business and you're like, I want to look for these corporate grants. I want to look for these, pitch competitions, corporate grants. Again, where do you start? How do you begin to have those conversations and build those relationships? And what are the pitfalls that you see founders kind of fall into when they're looking for that?
Okay, so lot to unpack in this one, but I'll start with the corporate grant side. You don't need a relationship. That's the cool part. I call it a corporate grant, and it's kind of known as that because corporations, literally like your Progressive, the insurance company, FedEx, Amazon, or even other smaller orgs, get tax incentives to just write checks to for-profit companies, and they do it out of marketing. Like their incentive is, yeah, this little bit of tax credit, but they get more marketing and PR out of it. But who cares? Because you literally get a check at the end of the day. And as someone who has won 24 in total, I won 22 for my first company and two more for my second company. No one asked what I did with the money. I didn't have to pay it back. And the check came in like 2 to 3 weeks. Literally no strings attached. So when people like don't put time towards this, I'm like, you're just silly and you're not prioritizing. We all have the same amount of hours in the day. Like there's no reason to not spend 1 to 2 hours every other week. And that's what I say to founders to budget for is like the corporate grant process, when done right, they ask very similar questions. It becomes copy and paste. Winning 22 of 23 I applied for, that's not luck. That's a copy and paste system. So it's really about putting the right systems in place to do so. So no formal relationship. Typically, let's say, for example, like FedEx, they don't require you to be a FedEx customer, but like create an account and have your business for this amount of time, or make sure you ship a product if you apply to FedEx because they're a shipping company. Like they'll say some things in the terms just to make sure that it matches, but the check sizes are between 1,000 and 200,000 on the high end, but I've stacked a lot to get to high six figures in free money, which is life changing and like all the seed that you need. But when you think about them, also, I just wrote a LinkedIn post about this the other day, actually, of it's not unusual to also see small fees to apply, anywhere from $5 to $100 max. The reason for that is not to make money on you. It's the organizations have admin fees or hosting, and they're not in the business, like they're not formulating the grant to make money off you with these small fees. It's just to help prep or use a software tool to rank your applications and things because some are just all written. They aren't even live. So that's something to think about. It's not unusual, but check your sources. There's not every organization is perfect, but there will be data and terms and things you can to ensure that the fees are legitimate. I've also asked for fees to be waived and been 100% successful on that. So you don't know if you don't ask. Another thing to think about, but the beauty of corporate grants is you do not need relationships. Now, the pitfall that I'll say is just because you didn't win doesn't mean that it's not a win. And I'm really big on this because every chance to pitch is should not be an opportunity wasted. So for example, it's you're organizing the business, you're learning how to communicate. You should be asking for feedback. You should have a follow-up. You should have a other specific ask besides money. There's always a reason to get something out of it, no matter what, even if it didn't end in a pure check. And this is a personal example that happened to me. Now, this might not happen every time, but this is literally from personal experience. I'd applied to one and 22 of 23, I don't know if you guys can tell, I'm type A, a little bit competitive, and I didn't win. And so I was kind of salty. And so I reached out and I was like, it wasn't out of anger. It was like, I'm just looking for feedback. And I did it. And I have this template where I have like this feedback system of short, sweet, respectful, looking to grow. 2 days later, I got a phone call and they're like, so Kat, we checked the rubric and we talked to our sponsors. We don't have any feedback. We're going to offer the $10,000 to you and the other person. So because I sent one email asking for feedback, I got 10 grand, no strings attached. So when I say pitfalls, the pitfalls come from people being lazy, not reading the terms, not putting in the effort to still make the pitch opportunity a win.
Can I ask a follow-on question on that, Kat? I'm interested. So
Yeah.
from like an IP perspective, right? You're filling out all these forms. What does it look like if you haven't patented, or should you patent before you start going after corporate grants like that?
So I'm not legal counsel. I'm not going to pretend that I'm a legal expert
Sure.
here. You don't want
Not
me
a
to
trick
be an
question,
attorney.
genuine
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah, I'm prefacing I am not legal counsel here. This is a pure experience, shared opinion here. But what I'll say is like, in what I see from founders is even when they're like going after investors too, 99.999% of people are not in the business of you pitching them to steal your idea. There are some bad eggs out there, but waiting until something is perfect. Now, from a legal perspective, from a patent and publicity, I think something should have to be at least in maybe the pending stage, but like just because, and my own business coach gives this example of like, just because there's country music out there doesn't keep country music singers from making new types of music and being better kind of thing. Like these applications are so short. They can be anywhere from literally one question to like 20 questions. It's nowhere near the government side where it's like pages and pages and it's really, really long. It's obviously a lot more money. So that's fine. But the if it's really something proprietary, go patent it, but don't wait till it's fully issued. It should at least be pending, I believe, in my experience, to be able to go for it. But also, there's the chance that you wait too long and someone could tweak something small and steal your idea anyway. So, in the defense sector, it makes sense, but most consumer tech or healthcare companies that I'm working with, they're not even in the business of getting a patent anyway, so they should just go for it.
Well, the reason I
And
asked that is, sorry, Sasha, I was going to say there's a form of corporate grants, right, on from the prime and sub relationships. Everybody knows hopefully what those are, but the primes are like the big guys, right? Like Boeing, Raytheon, Lockheed, all those big companies. They can even be other companies like Booz Allen Hamilton, right, who are the primes, have been awarded giant billion-dollar sums of money, and then subs then get that money from them. So that's another way to access government funding, and kind of similar to corporate grants, all of these organizations have technology scout arms. And I have found quite a bit of success in finding those through like Raytheon and at Lockheed Martin in particular, Northrop Grumman too, where you find that small arm that's a technology scout arm, and then you figure out a way to partner with them where they actually either invest in you, give you money to get going. But in that case, that's why I asked about the patents, because you're going to definitely want your patent when you start engaging with a prime. So
100% agree on that. Yeah.
yeah, and I was just gonna say I just popped in. We have an incredible person on Hubble for patents, Catherine Batt. So I just popped her link. Yeah, we love Catherine. And yeah, make sure you're protected. um, kind of going on with that, like Molly, you kind of mentioned that the sandwich method. And I love
yeah,
that. I love that idea. I love the
anything to
idea.
do with food helps me
Yeah,
remember
I
it.
know anything to do with food, we are all about here. Could you explain how to even think about, yeah, the patent system, or not the patent system? My goodness, my brain knows all about
Brain.
patents now. The sandwich method, and what a really good that hybrid model looks like in practice.
Yes. So you have to have your thing, your idea, right? You're like, hey, I'm excited about this thing. This is awesome. I'm going to build it. I'll use an example like the UAV we talked about. Then you want to go look and see if there's any SIBRs that are open. Now, right now they haven't reauthed, right? So SIBRs 1 and 2 are not available, but that doesn't mean that there's not other grant opportunities. And so right now, what I'm telling all founders who are looking to get federal grant funding is just do a search on sam.gov, check it out, see what's there, grants.gov. There's actually a lot that's still open. And then I would also say, who can you strategically partner with to take advantage of that funding? So there's still a lot of contract vehicles out there, like an IAC-MAC, for example, where that money's already been awarded to a prime. And they just need somebody to be able to take advantage of it. And so I'm happy to talk about that in detail. Like if someone has questions, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. But like, what does that look like? How do I take advantage of that initial tranche of non-dilutive funding? And sometimes it's partnering with the right person. So if you have like a widget, or another example, somebody's building tiny missiles size of a pen that go on this drone together, they're better, because that's actually a use case that the Air Force is looking for, not a just a standalone drone or just a standalone missile. So how do you find other people in your ecosystem to partner with to get that first tranche of non-dilutive? And then what I would say is you should have, like Kat said earlier, you should already be working your VC contacts. This should not be a surprise to them. You should already be sending out updates. Like you should be on LinkedIn. You should be posting about like, hey, we got this meeting with XYZ. We did this, because they're watching. VCs are always watching, not in a creepy way, but like in a helpful, wow, we're keeping an eye on it way. And I think that that's the best way to get follow-on funding, because it's going to be them reaching out to you or booking with somebody on Hubble and asking them questions and getting in front of them. And so, how do you take that win and roll it into the next big win? And then you build with that VC money. Hey, this is my specific thing that I want to do with this investment that you're making. I need a partner. I just don't want to check. I want someone who's going to partner with me to make it to the next space. So that's really important in the defense tech space in particular, because the VCs need to understand that it's not a fast turnaround. It's going to be like 5 years before they see a return on their money, but that return is going to be the potential to be quite large. So finding the right partner, so that's the middle of the sandwich, the peanut butter, the jelly, and then you find whatever branch of the military, typically it's the same one that you got the initial tranche from, is now your buyer and they're your end user. And you're selling whatever you just made back to them. And then it can kind of span across different places. So that's how I would approach it.
I love that.
It's very nuanced, so I apologize. I'm high leveling it.
No, it's super helpful. And as I always say for people, if you have like deeper questions for how this applies to you, book them on Hubble. We're popping links down below. But Gary kind of asked, I'm going to put this right in, is what does partnering with the prime actually mean? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, good question. So what'll end up happening, I'll use this example. So there's two good examples. One is like a Booz Allen Hamilton or a khaki, where they've been awarded the contract vehicle. What that means is the government essentially gives them a giant tranche of money to then go spend with subcontractors. And they are really the kind of like officials of that money. They're the ones who are helping manage it. So Blue Forge Alliance is another big one. It's a $2 billion contract vehicle for the Navy. So they manage that money for the Navy. They like take this, manage it well for us, help us with all of our subs. Partnering with them essentially is, hey, I'm a company. I want to get put on the Blue Forge Alliance, for example. I want to spend money on that. You need to find usually what are they called? I'm blanking on it now. A TA, so a task order, TO. You need to find someone who has check writing authority within the military or within the government who has budget kind of allocated for that prime contract vehicle, which sounds really hard, but it's not. It's usually a colonel or it could be a 1-star, 2-star general. You find that they're actually on LinkedIn. It's funny. They don't check their emails because it always bounces through like the .civ.mil. Like it never gets through. So don't email them. Contact them on LinkedIn. Like they usually are very friendly and they're open to connecting. And they're also watching your progress, by the way, if you're posting on LinkedIn, just same as VCs. They're very interested in what's happening, especially in that space, energy tech and defense tech. And what they'll do is you'll reach out and say, hey, here's my use case. Are you interested in buying something like this? And they'll usually either defer or say, yes, I am. Let's get a meeting through my staff, get a meeting booked, start talking about what that looks like. And then if you have your person who said, I want to buy this, you can go to the prime who's already been awarded the money and they can fund out of it like a credit card. So that's like high level. So that's one way to work with primes. The other way is like if they already have something that they're building, like a Boeing, and they need you for in some capacity. They need your tech. So like, whoa, Cat's micro nuclear reactor is incredible. I really want that. And the tech that you're bringing to the table, I have a company like this, by the way, so that's why I'm throwing it out there. Wow, this is amazing. Okay, great. Like, let's use that at Boeing. We can't iterate fast enough because we're big and slow. We want to use your stuff. We want you to do it with us. And they already have the pot of money reserved, so then they fund you out of it. It's still all non-dilutive. So there's no equity there. It's just you do have to consider IP with some of the bigs. So
Yeah, that kind of goes into this next question that someone asked. I kind of want to put in another Greg asked around, distracting from business development and the idea that, the governments can kind of come in and take your invention and kind of take it for themselves. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I think I'll say what Kat said earlier. Like, I mean, anybody can always steal something. I think with the government, you have to be really clear upfront in the contracting process. So who's going to buy it, who else can buy it, and just be really clear as you're negotiating. Because what'll end up happening is you can't sell it back to the government for more money than you do the commercial markets. It has to either be the same price or potentially a discount. And that's kind of how the military operates too. And so you just have to think through like what that process looks like and being really clear on IP, really clear on who else I can sell to, that there's no conflicts. I will also say that if you are serious about selling to the DoW in any capacity, you have to be really clear on who your supply chain is. Where are you getting your parts from? Who are you sourcing materials from? Because if you're doing anything outside, like in unfriendly countries, is what I'll put on their list. So like a China or a Russia, it's gonna be red flags, especially because right now they're all about made in America for America. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say it's yes. Kat, I'm gonna kind of move over and really talking about, I mean, you are the Grand Queen. You are how to,
Corporate grant queen. Don't ask me about government grants. That's what Mollie's for. I also can't wait to tell my husband that I'm applying for my micro nuclear reactor grant. Those words have
Super
never
cool.
come out of my mouth before, but new things today.
Put down your LinkedIn, be like, changing bio. April Fools. I'm expecting that on April 1st.
Yeah.
What signals do grant committees like? How do you just kind of break through and just like as you said, it's like a rinse and repeat sort of framework. What sort of framework should people think of and just like utilize?
Oh my gosh, such a good question. So I'll tell you, not only have I've won that, I've also chosen hundreds of winners now. Even I got to sit on the FedEx committee. I've chosen, I mean, you name it, for some big to small orgs, and I've gotten to be in those rooms and see what the grantors look for. Not all of them just running through some AI model. Like they still pretty manual and old school and looking through a lot of things. And whether it's a pitch or a live application, what the three biggest areas that whenever I look at a founder's pitch and we improve it, like the founders who I've helped win one grant on average win three to four or more because of copy and paste. And the three core buckets that we fix, and then I'll kind of go into that framework, is like the people who don't win don't have a clear ask, just like with investors. It's very similar. People who don't win don't brag about themselves enough. The people who don't win use super fluffy language that can be pasted into someone else's pitch and make sense. That's my rule of thumb. I preach this every day. If there's a phrase or like a long phrase or a sentence that you can paste into someone else's pitch and it makes sense, the rule of thumb is to delete or add detail. So, for example, if a company, let's say they're applying for something and I see in their ask, they're like, this opportunity would be tremendous and help us really grow our business and da da da. It's like, that could be for CPG, that could be for biofuel, that could be for literally anything. So, a pitch, I almost like to think of like the words and sentences are like real estate. It can either add or detract value to your property. So, do you want to add it or do we want to keep things simple and clean and more concise? Because the grantors, you have to think like, especially for example, FedEx, they get 10,000 applicants a year. Now, the people who directly answer the question and read the terms are actually in the 2 percentile. The majority of people don't do that and are super, super lazy. The competition for it is actually extremely low. And so the framework is I've coined what I call the script block. So every founder I've worked to help with a grant, they use this exact same framework. And the categories that they pre-write can be copy and pasted into 98% of the pitches. And then I also say like start with 1 to 3 grants. Applying, I had someone who emailed me, honest to God, she goes, I can't wait to apply to 100 grants. And I'm like, please don't do that because you're going to hate me and I'm going to be really sad for you because you should be running your business. Go make more money. Grants are not recurring revenue. It is a bonus. It is a credibility ad. It is not what is fueling and running the business. So like have that core time for running the business, but the core aspects are around like bragging about yourself and storing connection to the business, being clear about the problem and challenges, adding credibility of industry statistics and the why. What you're actually offering should be so obvious to someone not in your industry. So what I say, this is a really advanced topic that sounds really simple, but the goal of any pitch, whether it's written or live, should be that you explain it in a way that someone can go pitch it to your target consumer for you. It's not to them, it's not them as a user. It should be that dumbed down because the grantors, like, they've got 10,000 applications to go through. They're freaking tired. They don't want this. Honestly, not what they signed up for. Like, the people at FedEx, they're in a different field. Like, they did not come on to read grant applications. So, like, they have a very basic rubric to follow, and it's subjective based on clarity, story, ask, being direct, like actually filling in what they want, not what you think you want to hear. So in terms of that outline, it's not as niche or as you'd think. It's actually very general in terms of categories, the same categories you talk to an investor about. The only difference is talking about the ask differently, or maybe the grantor asks for a max amount of characters or word count. That's really all that changes.
I muted myself by accident. What's the difference between, because everyone hears all these things about, fellowships, there's grants, and then there's also accelerators. When do you think, Susanna, for both of you, when do you think a company should really focus on those versus, as you said, actually building the business, getting the revenue, getting the numbers in to then even be more enticing for those? And like, how do you think about splitting your time?
I'd love to
I mean,
share just a quick bit on accelerators that giving up 7% of your company to be a part of something for 8 weeks is not a flex. just to put their logo on your LinkedIn profile. Like I will publicly I talk about that, I post about it. Not all accelerators are created equal. So I urge founders to be really careful about that. Some are great. I've been a part of many, but I've seen the majority waste a founder's time and or take
Yes.
equity or have large fees that don't give them the support that they actually needed. So I urge caution around that. I also know founders who go to accelerator after accelerator and not actually build the business, and they think that that's also a flex when it has nothing to do with them building. But I'm going to post this. It's a free tool in the chat here. So this I made because I had so many founder questions about it. I made a GPT to help think through what are your business goals and what types of capital match. So like play with it. It's meant to like help you process through what kinds of capital to think about because I don't recommend an accelerator if you need capital. You can find people on Hubble and LinkedIn and so many other opportunities. Accelerators are more for infrastructure of things if you're really, really lacking. So try out that GPT, play with some numbers to actually see what's needed to hit the goals and cash flow wise. I'm not originally a numbers person, so like I love that tool because it helped me think about it differently. But I mean, I know that was a little bit of a tangent on what you were looking for, but I wanted to make sure I caution against like, oh, check a box on an accelerator because that's doesn't always have to be a part of the plan if the specific mentors you're looking for aligns with the goals and output that you want.
So I'm going to take a little different take. Not totally in disagreement, but I know Sasha said she wanted us to pretend to disagree, so I'm disagreeing. I don't actually disagree with that. I agree 100% on that because I think a lot of them can be a colossal waste of time. Hey, do you have a website? Hey, here's how you do go to market. And it's like, okay, you can learn that in an accelerator, but then at what cost? What I will say though, as a caveat, is if you pick the right accelerator, it's always about picking the right partner. If you pick the right partner, the right VC, the right accelerator, the right strategic partner, it can mean everything to your business. And if you find the right one, for example, Mass Challenge is a really good one. They don't actually
Love that
take
one.
equity. They're
Mhm.
amazing. And the people there, like Chris Houlihan and I we're working together on a few of the things. He's fantastic. Reach out to him. They're amazing. And they actually really help you and introduce you to the right people to grow your business as soon as you graduate. So just a
And
small
they give a
caveat.
grant. I
They
won
do. Yeah. Yeah.
$25,000 from Mass
Yep.
Challenge for my first
Yep.
company. I'm a huge fan. I have amazing connections. Totally
But don't
agree.
throw the baby out with the bathwater is all I'm saying.
No, 100, and that one's like, and even all the ones that even do take equity, they're not all bad either.
Yeah.
Like that's not it. It's just treat it like an investment in vetting, like you would bring someone onto your cap table versus like, oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
get this and check all these boxes. But like there are great ones that are small fees or they give a grant at the end and like Mass Challenge, I love they have
That's a
sectors
good one.
all over. I totally recommend that one.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah, in what ways can accelerators actually open doors? And then kind of as you said, like in what ways can it just completely close doors?
I think it could be a time waster, right? I mean, like Kat said, I mean, you're doing this thing for 8 weeks. 8 weeks to 12 weeks is a really long time to like have like both, all this homework and like you're doing all this stuff, but you're not actually growing your business. The thing I always say first, like, yeah, grants are amazing, but revenue is your best investor. Like, I know this is about fundraising, but like revenue is your best fundraiser. So, because at the end of the day, if you don't have product market fit, which revenue will test out, none of it matters. All of it is performative. So, like, if you can get revenue first, and then in conjunction being applying for grants and proving out your product market fit, then everything else gets easier. And I think that accelerators and some of those other things can take away from you doing that right away because you're in a class and you're learning and it's kind of like going back to school forever, right? Like you never actually get a job and do something. You're just always in school. It's like, get out there. You just need to do it. So maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but
I'll say one thing I see founders do incorrectly is like there are some great tech stars and there are some not so great tech stars. You have to do your due diligence on it like an investor. And I'll say the founders, and this is not a Techstars thing, this is a general accelerator thing. If you're going for mentorship, just mentors, just because you see someone on the website, don't do it. You can find them on platforms like Hubble or LinkedIn. Like the mentorship is so easy to build a relationship with someone in the DMs. I've had some of the best relationships with people because of that. LinkedIn has been life-changing for me in the business. And so it should be for a variety of, you should think of it of like, what's the outcome and ROI that I want? Like, what's the endpoint, and work backwards based on, am I going to get this? And is it worth the amount of time that they're requesting from me in order to be a part of it? So like pure mentorship is not the end all be all, is all I'll add.
Yeah, I can attest. I went through a Techstars and it was a 12 weeks of just, it wasn't it for like, yeah, what we needed. And we should have spent those 12 weeks talking to customers versus
I
trying
mean,
to
you
talk to
could,
mentors.
well, you could pull your own, like almost like a la carte 12-week accelerator with Hubble and like talk once
Hmm.
a week with like a different expert. And then you get your whole, you get to pick and choose, right? Like what you
Ooh,
want to
Kevin,
talk.
that's a cool idea. The
Just
Hubble
saying.
Don't
accelerator.
worry, guys,
I like
we're
it.
thinking about it.
You
We're
heard it
thinking
here
about
first. I love it.
it.
That's so good.
Let me know if you guys would be into this because maybe thinking about it. No, I love, yeah, I think accelerators. And someone asked, like, how do you know which accelerator is actually the one to choose? Because, reviews can be misleading, hype and Instagram and LinkedIn kind of, hoity-toity praise. When you're doing your due diligence on both grants, on investors, on angel investors, on anyone who you want to bring onto your cap table or just take money from, what are some, I guess, due diligence questions you should ask yourself or frameworks to think about? How do you actually think about it?
That's such a
I would,
good
I would ask
question. I
people who've
would,
graduated.
what I recommend for founders to do first is build out your ideal funder profile. In terms of connections, experience, whether it's from an investment perspective or what you can really afford, or connection that you're specifically looking for, whether it's from a mentorship or advisory perspective, like build out the dream, build out the vision of that first, and then work backwards from it, because then it'll get messy. It's like a I was reading this book the other day where it was like, a genius with no plan will get nowhere. A mediocre, intelligently owned person with a map will get exactly where they want to go. So like, you don't have to have the perfect thing aligned, but you still should have an idea of what that ideal person connections output that you want in there and around that profile. And then when you think of an accelerator being a good fit or not, it's like, again, what's the ROI that you want from it? What specific things do you want to learn or you need? Are the terms, whether it's dilutive or non-dilutive, match the long-term vision of the company? So for example, there's this one, I'm not going to name names, it's like maybe $100,000. And to one founder I was working with was
I'm sorry. It's $100,000 to join it, or like they give
it
you
was an
100,000.
investment, sorry. Good
Okay.
clarification.
I was
Yeah,
like,
100, yeah.
there's Steam membership
100,000,
fees.
yeah. It's 100,000 to join, but you have to give up 7% equity if they let you
Got it.
in. And then the support ends after a certain amount of weeks.
An
And
expensive $100,000.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But to her, she was like, oh my gosh, I'm drowning. I need this money to do this, this, and this. Like the $100,000 felt like a savior. But then when we pulled her back a little bit and was like, what's the long-term output of the company? Does that align with that? Is that going to be dead weight on your cap table? The answer was yes. And so when you think about the cap table stipulations, I also recommend putting that into consideration. And the coolest thing is like, you can see, or they're probably going to brag about the people on their website or like who's following the page or connected to it. DM 5, 10 people that you can find, or 3 at that, and ask if you think it was worth it, or what you wish they knew, or what you would recommend. Like, it doesn't even have to be a call. Don't waste someone's time. Like, send a quick DM, like, appreciate X, Y, and Z. You'd be surprised how many people want to share their perspective too.
Yeah, I think Mollie, that's what you mentioned
I was
of
going to
like
say,
talking
talk
to
to
people.
graduates. What were their
Mhm.
experience? Did they enjoy it? And then also on the VC side, I mean, anytime you guys are doing due diligence with VCs, you should talk to who they've already funded. Who are companies in their portfolio? What are their experience? Do they enjoy it off the record? It doesn't have to be on the record, or potentially those that maybe they didn't invest in. And you can find those pretty easily, usually, just looking at their networks. And that's going to tell you a lot more than anything else, in my experience.
Yeah. And kind of leading into like the last like question or two, talking about exits and kind of,
Fun.
that then and dilution, because dilution is that thing that
Okay.
people do not think about.
Can I take this one first? I know,
Yes,
Kat, you've bought
please.
and sold companies.
Please.
I've exited twice myself, and I would love to tell you like what I learned. And
Hmm.
don't what I did for my
Do
first
it.
company. So I wanted to invite everybody and my friend to be a part of my company, and I was super excited. I was so excited to be building this thing. And all of a sudden, your cap table literally looks like a friend's birthday party, and you have like 20 different people on there. They're all doing a different thing, and it's super messy. And then, hey, we exited, yay! But like it's so diluted at that point and no one else can get involved because it's so messy. So if you show a cap table to an investor and there's like 20 people already on it and you've only been in business for 3 months, they're going to be like, I don't think that this is probably a fit for us. Like, because how is this going to work? Unless it's an amazing product, of course. It's just messy and too many people. And so the other piece that I wish that I knew for my first company was build for an exit, because building to be a big company and building to an exit are actually two very different things in my experience. So understanding like what is my end goal, because the way that I approach the market, the strategic partnerships that I take on, the money that I take so that I can hit those different milestones like Kat mentioned are going to be crazy different versus me growing my company sustainably and just going to a quick exit 12 months from now so that I can be in part of some type of roll up. And so I would say that those two things for sure off the top. And if you have others.
I had one exit, so I didn't have two. But I'll tell you, with my one exit experience is for especially the female founders in here, Carrie Kirpin, you can find on LinkedIn, does an excellent job of building with that, starting with the exit in mind, is what she says. She's got a book called The Exit Whisperer. She's fantastic. And I was never trained on like thinking about the exit early. And when I think about that is like so my first company, I was under contract 4 times before I sold. The third time fell through the week of my wedding. Like I will write a book one day. It was a very painful experience, but I built the reason there was so much struggle is, I mean, there's always going to be drop-offs and offers, but so many people were not confident because I became the face of the brand so strongly that they didn't think that if I left, that they could maintain. And that was a big problem. And no one told me that. I just did it out of survival and hacked my way together. But I baked myself into being the only form of success and the only bit of opportunity in that first company. And that was such a problem. And so I wish someone told me that. And two, I have no problem paying a broker to help me through the process. I will do that 100 times over. That broker, there's a fee associated with it. It was worth every penny. Again, I would do it 100 times over. They coached me through the process. They helped rework my numbers because my accountant had done them wrong because I didn't have the right accountant who knew how to balance books for an e-commerce brand. Like, I mean, I really did all the wrong things twice over. And they were so fantastic. And so if you're considering like if someone seems predatory that they could take a percent or they're part of the preparation, if you vetted enough, I talked to about 6 or 7 brokers. I found one. I refer a ton of business to them. They were fantastic and it's worth every penny. So I would do that again.
Well said.
I love that. And then kind of the last one is how do grants and like these types of funding sources impact the exit and how can people kind of use that money to almost get to an exit faster, if you will?
It's easy on the corporate side. I would say like it doesn't affect the exit. I mean, it's leverage of like you keep 100% of your company. Like grants don't, a true grant is not a loan. It's not like taking any equity. So that's better leverage for an exit. It could also be more credibility in terms of like PR and cash flow that could come and help. Again, it's not consistent cash flow, but that was the cash I needed to be able to exit after 6 years. I mean, it wasn't as easy as it sounds, that's for sure, but it brought me into more rooms and opportunity. I got a ton of mentors from it. So on the corporate side, I always say it's not about the cash, it's about the PR and the domino effect of everything else. Like I helped one founder, she won $50,000 from Progressive, the insurance company. Screw the 50K because if she knew what she did and had the option of 50K or being on progressive.com like she would, she couldn't pay 50K to get on progressive.com. And the millions of people on there every day now Googling her and her brand, unreal. She couldn't pay for that kind of stuff. So it's PR and leverage, but not necessarily no one's going to buy you because you had a certain amount of grant wins because it's not repeatable revenue. So just kind of keep that in mind.
I guess I would say I would come at it from a different approach. I would come at it from almost like a M&A that type of exit. So like if you're looking at grants through kind of the defense lens, oftentimes if you have traction, you're winning different contracts. Like I'll use another example, the Idaho National Laboratory is a really good one. It's all about PR. Like Kat said, post about your wins too. Make sure you're telling people about these things. Have investor updates, like email people about this because it's super important. Like that's half of the win is like being able to talk about it. And so having those different grants and those government organizations, it catches the attention of the primes or the people who want to buy you. So I think that if you can, again, have that momentum, it turns the right eyes towards you to potentially help with that type of exit. Because otherwise it's like, hey, you're on the ether. Maybe you use a broker. Who's going to buy my business? This is like, I know who's going to buy my business or who I want to sell to, and you're planning for that in your exit, and you start to accumulate grants in the right sectors that draw that right attention. So that's what I would say.
I love it. And to close, I think it was my favorite question, but how do you be a good steward of capital when it's non-dilutive and you don't have, accountability at stake?
I mean, there's accountability in all of the government grants. So there's no such thing as free money. I know that was one of your questions in your you absolutely, budgets are the most important thing for government grants. If you mess up on your budget that you submit to them, you're in big trouble. So I will say that like that's important, but then also like you're building something because you believe in it. You're building something because you believe that it can change the world, it can change people's lives. Maybe you just want to make a lot of money and that's awesome too, but what is that thing that you're doing? And then, hey, you're essentially with a grant, corporate or otherwise, somebody's investing in you. They're saying, okay, I believe in what you're doing. Take this. And the idea is that you can then go build stronger and better with it. And so I imagine that all founders should kind of keep that in mind, right? This person's trusting you with whatever cash it is that they're giving you. So take it and prove them right. Because you know what? If you prove them wrong, you're not going to get any more. If you prove them right, then you might get follow-on capital from a lot of different sources. So it's a win-win.
I love that. It's a little different on the corporate grant side because a lot of the organizations don't have the bandwidth to check and it's such a small amount. It's not repeatable. Like for 24, no one literally asked. Now, I didn't use it to go on like some super cool vacations. I didn't pay myself for 4 years and I exited the business. So like I was the proper steward. So being a proper steward, it's like you're not going to get awarded the capital if you don't have a clear ask and know this second what's going to happen, where that money is going to go to the penny. And I'll tell you, so I helped another founder when it was $40,000, but I got to be in the judge's room just to be a fly on the wall because I had helped with the application process. And when they were going back and forth about who to pick, one had more revenue and traction, but both were pretty neck and neck and things. So it's not about like, oh, this business needs it more. The argument was, and it became clear, they chose the one who won the 40K because they said, we're more confident that she knows exactly where the money's going to go the second it hits her bank account. So like they're trusting that she's going to be a good steward of that. And I'll tell you, like the grantors are thinking, who's going to represent me as an organization? Who do I get to brag about? And then it's kind of like those Shark Tank updates. 1 year from now, do we get to brag that like, look at where they are, look at how we help them? Like they want to do those updates. They might check in on you and see how things are, but they're a lot less strict on the grant side. So it's really, they're trusting that you do right by the money. And I'll tell you, I know some people in the grant world who have used it in unfortunate ways or their company shut down quickly. And that's just part of the risk that it happens, but it's a smaller amount. So they're not gonna ask, but
it always
good.
comes to light though.
Yeah,
It
it'll come back.
So don't go to the
want no
Bahamas
Forbes
because it's
30
not
to
going to
30s.
suit you well.
I know we don't want no Forbes 30 into 30s taking ski holidays to St. Moritz.
Yeah, I don't want to be on Netflix.
Well, thank you guys so much. We're going to open it up for a few minutes of some Q&A. I know we've had some questions pop in. So if you want to ask a question, please make it around grants and funding. You will have like 30 seconds to ask your question. Please ask it in one sentence with as little context as possible, just to keep these short and snappy. And then they'll have about a minute, a few minutes to answer and kind of go back and forth. So if you have a question, raise your hand on Zoom. And if you could pop your questions also in the chat so we can kind of pick and see which ones are going to be probably applicable for a lot of people. So as you are asking or raising your hand, please pop your question in the chat as well. And then we're going to go back and forth and be able to do that. I'll give everyone a minute or so to pop their question in the chat. And then stick around till the very end because we'll be announcing a way to win a free session with these two amazing ladies. So if you are, wanting to do that, we'll explain at the very end. So everyone who stays at the end will get to know how to win a free session. Fab. Okay. Could the ones who have your hands raised, could you pop your question in the chat as well, please? That way we can kind of go in an order as well. Thank you. And as we kind of go with this, please pop any takeaways that you have already, and make sure you're connected with myself, okay, perfect. Yeah, Timur, you go first. I like this question.
Great. Hey, thank you. Wonderful being here. I want to dive in a little deeper. Raised a lot of money in grants for students I've advised and for startups I've advised. Never have pitched to the government. I'm a co-founder and running my own startup, raised over $1 million, but we are looking into getting noticed in specific industries. And I realize that opening doors costs a lot of effort, much more than just finding the list. And I make a list, 300 items going bottom up, spending about 4 hours a day. Not getting noticed is the big problem. A lot of it is just blank shooting. And I would appreciate the insight into that.
Getting noticed by the folks that you're applying for grants for?
Exactly, yes.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay. I'll give you advice I give the founders that we work with. What grants are you applying for? Do you know who's reading it? Because you can find them online. So if it's a publicly sourced grant, especially through sam.gov, you can see who's actually going to be the person who put that grant out, and you can likely see who's going to be reviewing it. What I recommend to my founders, don't go stalk them, don't go reach out to them, because that's sketchy and they're going to immediately red flag it. But what you should do is potentially follow them on LinkedIn or wherever that is, and then you can start engaging with their content in some capacity. Start figuring out how they talk about the different issues that they're posting about, and then incorporate that language into your grant. Because a lot of times the reviewer is reading it and hey, I'm a super technical reviewer. Amazing. I want to write for the reviewer because they're the one sitting there who's going to be like, oh, I get this tech. This is amazing. It's what we need. Or maybe they're not technical at all and you need to keep it business high level. And so understanding who's reviewing is going to help you get noticed because you're going to be in their feed. The other piece of that is I would treat it just like an investor update. So how are investors noticing you? It's the same way that grant people are going to notice you. It's the same way that anybody that you're selling to is going to notice you. Are you interacting with their content? Are you in front of them in some capacity? Are you posting about your wins? Are you posting about the topic? Are you the authority on the grant that you're applying for? Because at the end of the day, eyes will be on you for that, and they're going to see who you are. The other piece of it is you can start to network with second connections. So I tell my founders to put together a spreadsheet, and this is old school. I'm sure there's a GPT for this. Don't at me, AI people. Okay. So put together an old school spreadsheet, right, of all the people that are connected to this grant or this agency in some capacity that you want to do business with. Who do you know that is connected to those people? Can you get a warm introduction? Can you ask for an informational interview? Can you ask to pick their brains? A lot of times people will hop on a quick call with you and talk to you, and now they know who you are and they know your name and they know your company. Don't pitch them your grant. Don't get salesy, but treat it like a true informational, and then you're going to start getting in front of the right people. So that's what I would say. If that answers it.
I love that. I learned a lot from there. Timur, did that?
This is neat. If you could quickly follow up on how do you find out who is the reviewer? I do the homework in most cases, 9 out of 10 times they are blank.
So if you go to the bottom of the grant, if you're in sam.gov, if you go to the very bottom of the grant, it tells you who posted the grant, either the agency, the actual individual within the agency. And then what you can do is you can take that and then you can search for them. And I would actually use ChatGPT. Who else works at this agency that's on LinkedIn? And it's going to give you a list of names. And now you can kind of start to do your homework and understand, what do they do at that agency? Are they a grant reviewer? Are they in charge of the budget? Because you'll be able to see, their background and their history. And so that's how I would approach it. That's how I do approach it.
Insight. Thanks. Makes sense.
Lovely. Duke, I'm going to move to you.
Thank you kindly. Good morning, good day to everyone and all. Yes, so if I may ask, post-launch, what are the strongest metrics we need to demonstrate in order to be the most appealing and enticing to investors? And if I may be cheeky and just follow up with one more question, which is that I've heard conflicting advice about sharing your wins and that it can seem a bit false flaggy. And so if you keep bragging, it's like it's a strange dichotomy to you have to demonstrate your wins, but if you do it too much, it could seem fake. So if you could please respond to that too. Thank you.
Excellent questions, but I have one follow-up for you. What industry are you in? Because the metrics are technically matter based on the industry that you're in.
Social and gaming, a sort of intersection.
So what do you consider to be the top metrics that you're tracking?
I was aiming for, and I've made retention our North Star.
Mhm.
Because as
Mhm.
much as we can gain and acquire as many new users as possible, if our churn is massive, there is no point. So I think even our product is shaping up towards trying to get that retentive factor going. But I could be wrong. I don't know if
No,
it's a case.
I agree with that. Um, and I'm just another shared experience and opinion, but I think that's an app. You're right in the having that as a North Star metric. That's really important. I would also think about like potentially like when you think about, I don't know what your business model is, but investors are obviously going to want to know how you make money and what the lifetime value of someone is and what some of those aspects are financially, because retention is huge, but like money. Money at the end of the day, that's what they're going to care about. They are investing to make money and as they should and as you should. So I would think about the cool thing is you can go into ChatGPT and say, here's my industry. What are the top metrics that I should be thinking about and indexing on? And it's going to tell you also the baseline for your industry. So and you can compare and say, for example, we were helping a founder with a social platform and she found and benchmarked like the industry standard for X, Y, and Z is this percent, but we're at this percent. So then it's a value add to investors where you get to do that comparison based on industry standards and you get to do that pretty quickly. Then on the sharing win aspect, I am huge on sharing wins. I think I see more female founders struggle with this than guys, but I also see some great guys who refuse to brag and think it's douchey and whatever, but I don't agree with that. But I will say there is a way where if you're talking to investors where the wins don't match the problem you're solving and you're just bragging to brag, that's when it becomes like, all right, who is this person? Like, why are we here right now? They just want to talk versus if it's directly correlated to what you're doing, brag all day long. So it does build that trust, not all day long, but there is a way to position it and weave it into the way you talk about the story and what you're doing, what you're capable of. Or if you're asked about the team, it's very easy to tie that in 1 to 2 sentences in a non-braggy way where it's not doesn't make someone feel like they don't want to talk to you. But I'm a big fan of like, you should absolutely be bragging about yourself when you're talking to investors. You have only a very small chance and time to impress. And if something is specific to what you're doing, it should be heard.
Can I
Thank you,
add
Kat.
really quickly one other thing? I would say I wouldn't listen to people who tell you not to post. Like straight up, I would just say no. That's terrible advice. It just is, and it's not bragging. I would say as long as you're telling a story. So it needs to tell a story. Are your wins cascading into your ultimate victory, which is whatever that is? Is it funding? Is it a launch? Is it whatever that looks like? Your wins need to tell that story and show the momentum. It's all about momentum. It's why we post wins because everybody wants to be a part of something that's going somewhere. No one wants to just be stale and flat. And so that's what I would add there.
Yeah. And if I can add one quick thing, Duke, are you in the UK?
I'm currently in Dubai at the moment.
Okay, but that British sort of
Yes.
mentality is also very, very, very prevalent in the UK. I'm in London right now, so you do kind of have to really put those blinders on, and I would highly recommend booking with an expert on Hubble or on LinkedIn and how to story tell, because that's the thing is how do you story tell those wins, as Mollie said. Because yeah, you can either do it in a really bad way or you can do it in a really, really good way. So start finding people who are really good at it, follow them and learn from them, or, use Hubble as a resource. But
Can I chime in really quick, Duke? That was a great question. One thing that you said you're raising your pre-seed? I saw in the chat.
Yeah, so we have a product out. We did our soft launch. We've managed to get about 400 downloads thus far and 6 subscribers, but I don't want to talk about the subscribers part. So it feels so small relative to, that's why I don't want to mention anything. Like,
Everything great always started small, right? So you don't necessarily need to neglect that. Like that's how every journey was started. One thing that I found super helpful when raising a pre-seed is actually like right now you can actually set some meetings with some seed stage investors, right? And what's the name of your company?
show your role, like as in show YA role, like show your camera roll.
Show your role. So you treat it almost literally like a first date, right? There's no pressure. You're just going to learn about them. You're going to learn about like their average check size, what they're into, what sort of businesses they like. The one thing that you want to leave from this meeting is you ask them at the very end, you say, hey, show your role is going to raise a seed round at the end of the year. When we announce this, what sort of metrics would you need to make it impossible to pass on our round? Right? You frame it just like this, and you're framing it in such a way you're going to get honesty because you're not actually even asking for it. You're using a hypothetical that is probably going to happen. So once you do this like 3 or 4 times, you're going to be able to go back to your team. And you talked about like metrics, right? And what sort of things should we be focusing on? You don't need to take investors, you don't need to listen to everything they say. But if you meet with 3 to 5 seed stage VCs, they're going to tell you this from this question that you ask. This then becomes your North Star, these like 3 metrics or milestones that you hear as far as raising capital goes, right? And to take it a step further, you can then use these metrics and milestones when you're raising your pre-seed, because you're going to tell, hey, we're raising 500K pre-seed. And they're going to say, why are you raising this money? You're going to be able to tell them, we just met with 5 seed stage VCs. They're interested in what we're doing. They like what we're working on. In order for us to raise a seed from their fund, these are the things they're going to need to see. Because of that, we're raising 500K to make sure that we have enough money to surpass these milestones. You can kind of frame it like this.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say about that. And then posting, and then I'll stop talking. You have to be your biggest fan, right?
Mm.
Nobody knows our companies right now. Our companies are babies, like they're tiny. Like if we're not our biggest fan, if we're not our biggest supporter, how can we expect anybody else to be a supporter or to be a fan, right? So even though it's a little uncomfortable, if you do it in an authentic way and you're not bragging and throwing it in people's faces, it's not going to come across as braggadocious, right? It's going to come across as successful, or this thing is happening, or there's progress here. And people love progress. People love success. People are attracted to things that are working. So if anything, it's going to spark curiosity from people. So never, ever let that hold you back.
Thank you guys so much. Sorry for taking up so much time, everyone.
No, this is a question that I think so many people like, face. And that's something that we hear time and time again. It's how do I start posting? And I don't want to feel, that. And so it's like, you help everyone else. And that's why we do these little questions is even though it might not be directly related to someone else's, everyone's in that same journey. So also Kat popped in someone for storytelling. Or the people who would do storytelling, and I popped in some people for gaming and apps and who've kind of been there in that process to kind of take a look and see if there's any resource there. I'm going to move into Gary because I know that you are in the healthcare space and have a very interesting question. So I'm going to go with you and then end with Lincoln.
Thank you very much. So this is a wonderful session, by the way. Thank you to everybody. I think this question is more to Mollie, but Kat, feel free. We've looked at some of the grants that are available and worked with HHS. We actually got a little braggadocious here. Two bills.
How dare you?
Signed into law just last week that directs HHS and Department of Defense to work with our technology. We're a preventative medical device that stops respiratory infections. We could have stopped COVID, right in its tracks. I developed it during COVID. So this will stop the next pandemic, respiratory related. All of the solicitations out there as for a treatment, as for a diagnostic or a vaccine. We're a preventative countermeasure. How do we connect with those responsible in the solicitations to consider us, we'll have a better outcome than any one of those.
So let me just make sure I'm hearing you right. It was a little quiet. So you basically lobbied, and you have like these directives that say you should do exactly what your company does from Congress, from those different departments, correct?
Right.
Okay. So, and knowing that basically by the time something goes to RFP or goes to RFI, it's kind of like venture capital. It's like a 2% chance that you're going to win it. They already have somebody or something in mind to likely award that money to. So getting them before you get to the solicitation piece is so important. And the way I would approach it, especially if you already have a directive, is go back to your champions that helped you with the directive. I mean, that's crazy. It takes like 3 to 5 years to get anything like that through Congress, and you usually have to hire lobbyists. Just for the context for everybody else, like that's actually a massive win. So if you already have that, I would go back to your sponsors and your champions and say, how the heck do we get this? Now it's written into the bill or the law. Like, how do we get in front of the right people that are spending money? And I would ask them that question. And then I would also go and I would look at the primes who already have big pots of money that are just already allocated. That now you can say, I have this directive. Let me help you spend your money. Because very often their pots of money are nebulous, and it can be advancements, technology, kind of like Kat was saying with corporate grants. They're not actually really checking. They just assume that the prime is getting great tech with whatever it is. So if you have a directive, I mean, that's like a do not pass go, don't collect $100, like you're good to go, like a white flag. So just do it. And that's how I would approach it. And if you want to talk offline, I'm happy to do that too.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then before we go to the last question, don't forget that to win a free session with either Mollie or Kat, take a photo of the screen, or you can just use a photo from, your camera roll, with with your biggest takeaway from this session. And don't forget to tag us. And we will be announcing the winner on Friday and be connecting you guys to do that. So please, please, please do it. This is also a way, you never know what's going to happen. So as Kat says,
Gary, post a picture.
channeling some of that channeling some of Kat's energy of you don't know if you don't do. So with that, I'm going to end with, apologies if I say your name wrong, but is it Lincoln?
Yeah, Lincoln, yes, correct.
Oh, perfect.
Thank
Okay.
you. Hi, yes, thank you so much for the session. I have a really specific question for my company. So I co-founded an AI deep tech company recently. So the whole technology is really based on the CEO's research in her PhD studies, but she really didn't get the enough support from the school or her professor. So it's like so she did the work independently. Now she's dropping out from school and being a full-time entrepreneur and a CEO. So my question is, in this situation, what is the best the strategy for us to get the non-dilutive money or funding or grants? What she told me was like, since she's out of school, it's really hard for us to get the government fund. They normally grant to the people like in school in the labs, but she's not. She's out of that. So what is our best strategy for the non-dilutive fundraising strategy?
Well, I was gonna let Kat answer that. It sounds like the grants that you get that you can kind of stack is kind of what it sounded like to me, but
What's the minimum amount of capital that would make an impact?
Anything can be a big impact. So we are looking for like
Like, give me a
3 million.
dollar amount. If you had to just answer with a dollar amount, what would
Okay.
you say?
I will say like anything like 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. Yeah, these are
So
helpful.
grants,
Yeah.
it's really hard to find 100,000, I would say, at your stage. But
Okay.
if $10,000 is something that you can make an impact on, where is the
Yeah.
company registered? Where are you based?
So we are currently in East Coast, but the company is registered in Cali. Oh, it's registered in Delaware, but the company's address is in Bay Area, and we will all move to Bay Area after fundraising.
Okay, as long as there's more opportunities for US registered entities, so I just wanted to confirm. Canada is
Yeah.
even a lot more limited, but I would say, well, I did a grant training yesterday. So if you
Okay.
send me an email, Lincoln,
Okay.
I can send you that recording of or on my YouTube. I did a mini grant training there. Go check that out. and see if that
that's great.
still
Yeah.
aligns with what kind of would be helpful, and then send me a message, because on the grant side, it's like all it takes is 1 to 2 hours every other week. But just hoping for like a 50 or 100K check, like that's not really the core strategy behind it. It's about, as Mollie kind of mentioned, like stacking those checks is where the real value is going to come in. So if you've
Okay.
got 1 to 2 hours every other week where you can kind of commit and think about what you'll do with that, then happy to chat to see if I can be helpful.
Okay, that's good. Thank you so much for that. So I have a friend who's a deep tech founder. So, but he's still working in the lab. He's a postdoctor in Stanford University. He told me he got almost a 1 million grant from the government, non-dilutive grant. But that is something really impossible for us, right? Because we are out of the lab, out of the school, if I understand correctly.
I mean, it would be for something, right? So the government's not just going to
Okay.
give you $1 million. Like they're going to give you $1 million for you to build something or something.
Yeah.
So I would just dive in a little bit more on what the details are there with your friend and just understand what it was that they sold to them.
So he's still working on the related diving technology. So that's a really advanced technology for the batteries in the EVs. So yeah, I don't know too much details about that, but she said like in the current government, Trump's government, they support something like that. And then so he got the grant. So he's doing the fundraising from the VC as well. But before the VC money, he got almost $1 million. Then he can run the company for a while without the VC money. But for us, we don't have that, and we need money to run the company. Otherwise, we cannot do
Lincoln,
anything. Yeah.
I'm gonna cut you off for a second so we can get to whoever SB is. But please, connect with Kat on and everyone can watch her YouTube. Watch her YouTube channel. It's great. I have it on my morning coffee little walks. You learn a lot. And then emails, and then as always, like book a session to go really deep onto your particular problem, and like your questions. For everyone.
I'm so sorry. I have to jump to my next call. So hopefully
no worries.
I do as well.
SB, is there a way you can maybe send your question to Sasha, since we have to jump for time?
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Perfect. Yeah, send it to me and I will pass it. But thank you guys so much. I'll stay on for a few more minutes. SB, you can ask your question to me, and then I will see if I can answer it. And then if not, we'll pass it over to Mollie and Kat to answer. But thank you guys so much. I'm just going to say goodbye to them, and then we will continue. Bye. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you guys. Feel free to pop off if you need to. I will stay on for another like 5 to 7 minutes for any other last questions. Always happy to answer those. So go ahead. Hit me.
Is Kevin still on by chance?
Kevin is.
It's here. Kevin's ready.
Kevin is here.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Kevin, my name's Scott. We're based out of Washington, D.C. We have a real estate valuation company using neurosymbolic AI. We currently have 29 patents pending, but we're pre-revenue pre-seed. We've done our POC. We're looking for funding to get the MVP built. So my question is, when we approach anybody that is willing to step in and help fund, should we leverage the patents that we have pending? Because that's the biggest traction that we have currently going.
Yeah. What would prevent you from hiding that or not disclosing it?
Just the algorithms.
Yeah, I definitely think people, especially early on, it's kind of scary to share information like this, right?
Right.
The amount of execution most ideas take to actually pull off is so difficult that by withholding these patents, it's probably going to be harder to raise money. You'll probably be in a better position showing all the traction you possibly have to this point. And one other thing that you said earlier, I would really push you and urge you to build a POC or an MVP without even having to raise capital, right? Like I think
we have.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because the whole goal is
we have a proof of concept built.
Okay, good. Yeah. The whole goal is we want to make it as easy as possible for somebody to say yes. And how do they do that? They do it because they like you and they trust you and they like the team and they may like the idea. But traction with actual paying customers is always the most important thing. So if we build a POC or an MVP and we just get a couple people paying for it, right? Or a couple people using it, that is going to be that ace up your sleeve. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. I would always, anything good that's ever happened, share it, be open about it. You know, raising capital is hard for anybody. I don't care what anybody says or how many LinkedIn headlines we read about companies. It's so challenging. I've been doing it as part of like my role with Hubble the last 4.5 months. It's not easy. We have to unearth as many good things about our company, about the future, about our ideas as possible to make sure that that happens. So
Right, because I've been bootstrapping it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say connect with me off of this on LinkedIn. I'm totally happy to bounce ideas off of each other.
Okay.
But yeah, if there's anything though that I would leave if I was you with this, it's how can we get as much traction as possible with the limited amount of resources over the next month. So when we start talking to these investors, there's some level of traction we feel good about.
Okay. All right. I'll connect with you offline. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, and like the other thing I just put in, Catherine, that is our like IP patent person I mentioned earlier, and that's how kind of she really, yeah, it's her specialty is how to present your patents to investors in a way that either doesn't scare them off and or really showcases the value of them, because I'm sure, you know, they are probably worth a certain amount. And so kind of, you know, showcasing that as well. So highly recommend grabbing a call with her, and really like hashing out a strategy of how to use your patents to your advantage rather than, as Kevin said, kind of hiding from them.
All right. And you put her information below. Is that what you
I
said?
did, yes. Let me resend it in a second.
Okay.
Actually, my cat, could you please do that for that? Too many cats on here. There are too many cats.
But
I'm sorry to jump in, Sasha.
Oh, pardon. What was that, Paul?
Sorry to jump in, Sasha. I just, first of all, want to thank Scott so much because I'm in the travel sector, about to launch a POC at a corporate travel conference in Dallas in April. My question to Kevin is related. We're in the I've been in the travel ecosystem for years. I have multiple relationships at both the travel management company and the corporate account level. We are in the process of signing not just an LOI or a MOU, but an actual beta corporate commercial agreement with these travel management companies and or these corporate travel enterprise level corporate travel accounts across North America and Europe. Is that a similar position in terms of getting all of that traction that you're talking about? We are pre-seed as well and pre-revenue. But I love that analogy that you made, and I'd love to bounce some ideas if you'd be open to that.
I think that far surpasses what I was coming from. Was more of like a consumer, like a Paul and a Kevin starting to use something. If you have enterprise deals lined up or customers that you're talking to, you only need one of those.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes they don't even need to be closed. If you're far enough along with one enterprise customer at the pre-seed level, you're ahead of 90% of pre-seed companies. So
okay, awesome. Thank you. That's very valuable.
What I would do is, and I don't know if you ever run across this, but like I would just try to under promise and over deliver as far as that relationship. I think sometimes people can have a conversation and maybe it's going places, but then they can oversell the relationship or how far along it is. It's going to take time. It's an enterprise deal. These things are slow. Just
they are
honest and 100% transparent about where it's at. You'll feel better when you're pitching with the investor because you're transparent and honest, and then they will sense that, and that kind of sets the whole tone for the meeting. So I would just really lean into the truthworthiness of where it's at in the process, what the challenges might be, and what maybe the success odds that you think of closing them ultimately is going to be.
Can I jump in for a second? And that's it's I'm so happy you mentioned that, because one of the discussions that I have with my co-founders is keep it stupid simple. And you know, and we have to be able to explain it if at a 10th grade level. So that's the challenge.
Yeah, we get excited when good things happen, and we tend to like over embellish or like think things are going to happen faster than they are, because it's exciting, because most of the time every day is hard and it's challenging. So the moment we get a little bit of good news, it's really good to shine a spotlight on it. And we shouldn't not shine spotlights on it, but we definitely don't want to overpromise early on, whether you're just getting a chance to meet an investor and then something fall through or not happen. It's a much more attractive place to be, where you can talk about it, and then you kind of underselling, and then it actually happens, or it actually goes to the next stage. As an investor, they're going to like that, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Invaluable. Thank you.
I'm going to move to Greg. Greg.
Hey, Sasha, thanks. Hey, real quick about the patent issue. I've got several. First, don't worry about anybody stealing it, but you also need to play your cards close. Provisional patents get you a year before you actually have to get into details. Just make sure that your corporation owns the IP. That's the only way an investor is going to get involved. But they don't have to read your provisional patent. And once you get a patent issued, the cat's out of the bag. You better be able to run, because the people that can steal the idea are going to be reading it.
Yeah, and I think the UK, the UK/Europe and the US have different patent laws and regulations. From what I know, is in the US you have, I think, 12 months to, have your idea and then patent. Or get protection, and in the UK and Europe you don't. So as soon as you say something, someone else can steal that from you. So it is, there is a little bit of that, but that's really helpful.
And, well, that's where having a good patent attorney comes in too.
Mm-hmm.
A patent does you no good unless you have the ability to defend it.
Hell yeah.
So you better be making money. You don't go for the patent. Unfortunately, many people do this. I did it. You don't apply for the patent until you're ready to start making money. That's the only way you can defend it. So hold off on filing the patent until the very last minute. Write your provisionals and make that intellectual property owned by your company. And that'll alleviate any investor fears of, well, you could walk away with the IP. No, it's owned by the company. So here it is.
That's really helpful. Amazing. Yeah. Any final questions before we say goodbye?
Just thank you. I apologize. I was in the midst of something else. I arrived late.
You're so fine.
20 minutes of being here, it was worth the 20 minutes. Thank you so much, everybody.
You're so welcome. And we will be sending out a recording
awesome.
And within like 24 hours or something. And as I said, like, don't forget that you can win a free session with either Mollie or with Kat by just posting a little photo, either of this or anything in your camera roll. Bonus if it's a funny photo. And tagging us with your biggest takeaway. And we will also be selecting someone on Friday. Tunmis, I'm going to let you have the last question. Apologies if I mispronounced your name.
Yeah, so you did to Michelle, so but that's fine.
Dang it, next time I'll get it.
So yeah, no problem, next time. Yeah, sure. So I have a question on one thing, because what we are building, we are actually building going deep diving into the blockchain technology as an emerging venture. So what we're solving a real world problem using the blockchain technology, taking away from the DeFi view on how people see the blockchain technology as it is. So as it stands now, we actually have a lot to do in terms of the building tech. So we have the product part, which is what we're using to solve the problem, and we're leveraging on our private blockchain we are building. So initially it's a B2B, startup. So initially I was going to wait for us to have a little bit of, the product MVP fully ready. Although we have a POC that shows what the product does, at least to a little standard. So, and I was actually going to wait for us to get the products ready, but at the same time, trying to raise pre-seed, because we have few months runway left, and try to this time to get that one. So while I was on the call now, I had you mentioned we can start, one can start, trying to get speaking to customers, but I had it in mind before was to have something ready, because my mind was to you know have an MVP, ready for me to be able to, when I'm selling to one of the businesses we are going to reach out to, which are the pharmaceutical companies, MCNG, and then the luxury goods companies, who are
Could I cut you
customers.
off really quick? Sorry, I can
Yeah.
barely hear you. Could you say your question in like a sentence? Because we kind of
So yeah,
missed
my
that.
question.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So my question is, do I need to wait for the products to be ready before I reach out to the customers? Being the fact that it's going to take longer time, even if we get to PC, it's going to take at least 5-6 months before we have the actual products ready. So right now, can I have the go ahead to reach out to the intending customers and pitch to them, talk to them, and have them on our wait list, even when the product itself is not anywhere ready?
Yes. Okay. So from what I understand, your product is not ready for another like couple of months. You
Is
want,
not ready. Yes.
yeah, not ready. So then you want to know whether or not you should start kind of activating investors and kind of grants and kind of having
Not
those conversations.
Yes, yes. Not just investors, because I'm actually looking for investors, because we need money to get the products ready. I mentioned we have few months going to be left. So
Okay.
do I have the right to get customers, to get at least people to talk to, and have that to validate my pitch when I'm reaching out to business or investors?
Yeah. I'm gonna give, yeah, give pass the baton to Kevin for a second. But I think something that we always say is if you're able to, depending on the industry and depending what you're building, getting letters of intent is always really
Yeah.
helpful. So kind of going either if it's enterprise or if it's just customers and really getting letters of intent signed to kind of showcase to investors, hey, here's what we're building for grants, whatever it is, saying investors broadly, not just VC, but for any investor, here's some letters of intent. Here's what we're doing. Here's who's going to have it. Here we have already X amount of people, a wait list slash plus also if it's again enterprise, getting those hard letters of intent that when this goes live, we will be deploying capital into it. That goes a long way, and that's also really helpful. But Kevin, I'm gonna see, if there's anything else.
I don't know if this is going to answer your question. It was kind of hard to hear, but just something that I kind of took that I think could be helpful for you. When you start pitching your idea, especially in the early stages, like our ideas are always changing. Like your idea that you're working on right now, I promise you, like in a year from now, there's going to be elements to it that are completely different, right?
Yeah, I attest to that.
Right. When we start pitching in the very beginning, you're also not going to be very good. Like your first couple of pitches is going to be awkward. You're going to fumble. They're going to ask you a question and you're going to be like, oh, shoot, I don't have a good answer to this. And then you're just going to start rambling. And then you're going to catch yourself rambling. And then the meeting's going to end and you're going to think deep down in your heart, this investor is never going to write me back, which is true. They're not. The beautiful thing is there's so many investors into the world. So even though you're not raising capital or ready to do it right now from maybe like a VC, start practicing, and talk about your company, talk about your go-to-market, start getting used to the questions that they ask, because it's a lot of the same questions. And I promise you, after like 10 meetings, the first 10, probably they're all going to pass just because this is how it is. But by the 11th meeting, because you're hearing the same questions over and over again, your pitch, your positioning, your storytelling, all of it is going to be so much better. And you're also probably going to think of other ideas to add into your product that you didn't even think about. But because these questions kept coming, they had you take a step back. And maybe you thought of something that actually is maybe even a better idea or a nice addition to your current product offering. So, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but even if you're not raising, you literally tell them, hey, we're not raising right now, but later this year we will be. But I just want to talk to you about our vision, what we're building, how we're going to change the world, and just start building these relationships.
Yeah, and when you're kind of piggybacking off of Kevin, this is like for everyone as you're starting to build those relationships and talking to VCs is kind of if you want to game the system of booking your first 10 to 15 calls with people you kind of know are going to say no. you kind of like, okay, they're most likely 99% are going to say no. But again, for practice, you don't really want to burn, quote unquote, viable options. You kind of want to be able to burn investors who, it's just not really a fit for them, or you're too early or whatever. But getting that practice, the same thing, really, you can make your chat GPT an investor. You can use all these different sources and frameworks. You can, if you have extra capital to allocate, using Hubble as a resource, just to talk to some investors like, hey, critique my pitch. Tell me what's working, what's not working, what am I missing, what should I think of? So there's lots of resources out there, but it is just knowing that the relationships matter. Your first 10 to 15 are going to be a bit crunchy, so might as well go in that with that mindset and kind of not burning the bridge.
One last thing that I would like to say is like, go find your favorite like podcast or favorite company. Go on YouTube and watch their first ever episode, or listen to their first ever episode. Like the biggest podcast in the world, I think, is Joe Rogan. So if you go back and look at the very, very, very first episode, listen to it, and I promise you, you're not going to be impressed at all, right? This is the same evolution that we're going to go through as founders, and we pitch our idea. Your idea is going to get so much better in time. So just kind of start throwing it out there, practice. Practice does make perfect. Have thick skin. One thing I hope everyone remembers is, do not take the rejections personally, because a lot of people are going to say no to you. And sometimes when they say no, actually what it is, they actually don't even have the money to invest, or maybe their fund's not deploying capital, but they don't want to tell that to you because maybe that's embarrassing if they're an angel investor to say, oh, I actually don't have any more money. Don't take the rejections personally. Every single one that you do is an opportunity to get a little bit better. And after 20, 30 reps at the thing, like anything in life, it's going to be night and day better than this first one. So Mr. Dasa, I don't know if I got that right, but don't be afraid. Start now, practice, get better. You're not going to be great in the beginning. Nobody is, and that's totally okay. By that 30th one, you will be. Thank you, everybody. I got to run.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm going to take a quick photo. Kevin, stay on. I'm going to take a quick 30-second photo for all of us people to come on camera. I want to see your pretty faces. In 3, 2, 1, yay! Thank you guys so much for tuning in and for being a part of this. We love doing these, and so we do them every single month. And we're going to be adding in this month. Actually, we have this month we have one next week all about AI 0 to 1 in building an AI, and then in March we have quite a few as well. So we did them once a month. Now we're upping it a little bit. So due to popular demand, drop any questions, connect with me, connect with Kevin, connect with Kat and Mollie, and thank you guys again. Don't forget to do your little post so we can pick our winner for a little free session, and we will talk to you guys very soon, and look out for the recording as well.
And Jones, next session, I want you to ask a question. You were intently listening this whole time. I saw you.
Hi, Kevin. Yeah, hi, Kevin.
Keep it up.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I know
too.
we appreciate a listener as well.
Yes.
But next time we're
Thank you.
expecting a question, mister.
Sure. Yes, I was a
Perfect.
bit tired after working. It is night
Oh, you're
here.
good. It's
It's
good.
midnight here, yeah.
I know. Thank you. I know people come in from all different time zones, so it's incredible. So go to bed. I'm gonna get ready for bed. Much love to everyone, and we will talk to you guys very soon.